Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is October 1st, and today we have two short articles for you that I really enjoyed. They're so interesting and informative.
I agree, and they're from very different perspectives here.
Yeah.
So first we have a history article talking about Harvard's rare Magna Carta, and we'll learn more about that later. And then our second one is about a very modern technology of using an AI pen to detect Parkinson's disease.
All right, they're both very interesting to me. The first one, because of our current political situation. This made me, it elicited a really strong reaction in me because I think, well, we'll find out what this really key question is when we read it. And for the second one, I now have a family member with Parkinson's.
I see. So we have both history and science combining together here. And
medicine.
Oh, man, this is so exciting for me. These are definitely in my wheelhouse, which means something that I care a lot about.
So for good writing, one important part of it is not just writing in a nice flowery style, it's being informative. And for me, these were both very informative.
I agree. And our first article, the Magna Carta, is something that I have a particular interest in. This is something I've learned a lot about in my college degree, and I've just historically just cared about it a lot. And I still learn something more about it and how it continues to influence our modern world. I was very fascinated by both of these articles, although I will say, when I saw Magna Carta at the top, I got so excited.
I can imagine, right, but me too. And also, it's not just the U.S. and not just England, because these were often taken as the model for constitutions around the entire world.
Karen and I had a brief chat before this, and Karen and I were discussing the Magna Carta, and I was so impressed that I don't know what your total background knowledge of the Magna Carta is, but I was so impressed on your insight because Karen is 100% right here. Like, well, how could this document from 1215, literally almost 1,000 years ago, still influence our society today? And it very much is a relevant document to any modern democracy. It was crazy how you just nailed the point of the Magna Carta.
Now, I wasn't always extremely attentive in history class, but for this one, I have a very, very sharp memory about how the teachers made it clear that this was a very big deal. And I've always kind of carried that around with me, but I haven't really felt how big a deal it was until now.
So I think probably our job today is to also make why the Magna Carta matters real to our audience.
Exactly. And here we go. Our first reading. Buried in books, Harvard's rare Magna Carta revealed. A document long considered an unofficial copy of the Magna Carta has been identified as a rare original issued by King Edward I in 1300. Tucked away in Harvard Law School's library, the manuscript was acquired in 1946 for a mere $27.50.
Medieval history professors from King's College London used ultraviolet light and spectral imaging to analyze the faded text. They found that the handwriting, wording, and word order perfectly matched those of the 6 other surviving charters from that year.
The Magna Carta was the first document to formally assert that the king is subject to the law. It remains a powerful symbol of liberty and justice. The professors hope Harvard's copy will soon be displayed to the public so its message and significance can reach a wider audience. Now, if you ask me, the key sentence was the first one I read of this paragraph. We will come back to it very soon. Back to the beginning, our title, Buried in Books, Harvard's Rare Magna Carta Revealed. Buried in books usually just means you're a bookworm, that you're constantly reading. So it's like you're buried under all these books. But here we're talking about a document that was literally buried in the books of their library that they really weren't paying that much attention to before. And so they're saying now that this copy of the Magna Carta is original and original.
It's still in beautiful condition, by the way. So they didn't write this on paper. They used really nice calfskin, and so it's quite a large document. And the ink they used is actually based out of kind of like rust and oil, and they use these growths off of oak trees, and they mix these two together, and it creates this very rich, dark ink that actually preserves very well across history. Many of these old documents are almost faded beyond any comprehension at this point, but not this Magna Carta. You could still see very much many of the details originally placed into this document.
And we can still read it many centuries later.
If your Latin is good enough.
Yeah, but at least we can see the letters clearly, even if we don't know Latin. Okay, so let's go over it sentence by sentence. A document long considered an unofficial copy of the Magna Carta has been identified as a rare original issued by King Edward I in 1300. So they always knew they had this copy of the Magna Carta, but they didn't know if it was just a kind of informal, unofficial copy or if it was an original.
All right, very briefly, a little history here. So the original Magna Carta was written in 1215, and this was signed by King John after his nobles were really mad that he just kept taking money and spending all over the place. This Magna Carta is from 1300, so how long did King John live? Well, actually, not much longer after the original Magna Carta. The Magna Carta needed to be restated and reissued and re-emphasized by kings later on when they were beginning to get too abusive with their power.
And that happens to anybody with any measure of power. A teeny tiny bit of power, like you are appointed like the chairman of a group. There's a good chance that you will abuse your power somehow, either with money or with telling people what to do or whatever it is. We humans are that way. We just abuse power. And man, when you're a king, you have extreme power, and there's a lot of room for abuse. Our next sentence, tucked away in Harvard Law School's library, the manuscript was acquired in 1946 for a mere $27.50.
That's less than 1,000 NT.
In U.S. dollars. Okay, at the time, that was worth more money, but actually not that much more money. It's still an incredible deal.
So some people theorize that Harvard got this because it was after the war and people in Europe were going through really hard times. And understandably, because of the World War, how ravaged everything was, they needed money. They needed money fast to rebuild. And Harvard scored this incredible deal. I wonder what the original asking price was for this document. Was it $27.50 or was this a negotiated price? And they're like, nah, bro, come on. Magna Carta, the most I can give you is like $27.50.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a real original.
Yeah, I don't know. This looks maybe second issue.
But at least it was preserved in good condition.
You are exactly right. In fact, the phrase tucked away here suggests to me that it's like folded neatly and put into shelves when in fact this is a massive document that's become very brittle with age. So it was tucked away, but not in the sense that it was folded. It just wasn't easy to access because even if it wasn't an original, it was still from the 1300s, which is really old
Amazing
and
in
rare.
Any case.
That's right.
Okay, let's go on.
Medieval history professors from King's College London used ultraviolet light and spectral imaging to analyze the faded text.
These are special tools that they use to analyze the ink and the paper to make sure that it really was from that age and it wasn't original. So with these tools, they were able to actually be sure it really is an original.
Let's look at the word medieval. Okay, this is kind of a weird-looking word for most people. Just think medieval, it just means the Middle Ages, after the fall of Rome in about the year 400 to the beginning of the Renaissance. It's sometimes called the Dark Ages because there aren't especially a lot of documents that survive from this period, especially compared to the Roman era and the Renaissance, that Italian outburst of creativity. But I think that's kind of a passé phrase. We don't really call it the Dark Ages anymore.
No.
Just the middle period of history there from 400 to about 1300.
And it was a period when the church held a lot of power.
That's exactly right.
All right. I have to ask you as a fellow native English speaker, when you first heard the word medieval, did you think in the middle of bad things?
Yes, of course. When I was a kid, when I saw the EVAL, I very much read this as EVIL, as the middle of bad things, which maybe for some people in the Middle Ages, that's pretty accurate.
But it isn't what it really means. Evil here just means a period of history. So they used these. The text was faded, was not clear, but with these tools, they were able to make it out.
All right, let's go to our next sentence. They found that the handwriting, wording, and word order perfectly matched those of the 6 other surviving charters from that year.
So in addition to analyzing the paper or the vellum that it was written on and the ink that they used, they also used other tools, linguistic tools. So handwriting, that's basically an artistic kind of a craft. They looked at the style of the writing. They looked at the wording, and that is very linguistic because language changes over time. So the grammar that they used back then is quite different from now, and you can try to imitate it, but you'll often make some dumb mistakes so you know it's not real. They found it was authentic. It was genuine. The grammar absolutely fits the grammar they used at the time. The word order, and that's part of the wording and the grammar. So they were the same.
So King Edward had a very distinctive way of writing his letter D. And if you had looked at his writing very carefully, just like you can probably recognize a family member's handwriting, if you know the way King Edward wrote, you could see that D all over the place. And this was kind of a giveaway. This was the telltale sign that this was an authentic copy of the Magna Carta.
Pay special attention to the next sentence. The Magna Carta was the first document to formally assert that the king is subject to the law. Now, if you have not thought about that carefully before, I advise you think about it carefully now, because often we let our leaders do whatever they want because they hold the reins of power. But when they themselves are breaking the law, that is simply untenable, because our documents, the Magna Carta and later our Constitution, says that you are subject to the same laws as anybody else. And people can't say, well, he's the president, he's the leader, we can let it by. And that's what we're doing now.
That's right. Underline this phrase, the king is subject to the law. Subject to the law here means that the king must also follow the same laws that other people need to follow.
And that's why it's so important if you find out that a king or a leader is influencing the judiciary. If they are choosing who is a judge based on who will be favorable to them, then you know that we have a very serious problem with corruption. To go on, it remains a powerful symbol of liberty and justice, and it still is true now, even more now.
Let's also underline these words, liberty and justice, and I'll tell you why in just a moment.
The professors hope Harvard's copy will soon be displayed to the public so its message and significance can reach a wider audience. What a wonderful idea.
Okay, so let's talk about why the Magna Carta matters here for just a minute or two. So the Magna Carta establishes that the king needs to follow the law, that they are not above the law, they are not a god, they are not like a pharaoh in Egypt or someone handed power straight from Jesus.
No special privileges.
That's right. Now, for a long time in history, this was a very unique idea. However, when the United States was beginning to come together as a nation, they needed some documents to lay out what were the powers and what were the reasons they wanted to break free from the country of England. And so they drafted the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, and they modeled the language in these incredibly influential documents on the Magna Carta. Every democracy following the United States modeled themselves on the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. So in a kind of an indirect way, the Magna Carta is written into every single one of modern democracies across the world. Why does this matter to you today listening? Well, it was written in Latin, and the court and the rulers used French, even though Middle English was kind of the everyday language. So if you start to learn any legal English at all in the future, habeas corpus, due process, justice, liberty, subject to the law, court, jury, attorney, counsel, tenant, heir, all of these words are straight from the Magna Carta, and you learn them today because in 1215, King John could not keep his wallet closed.
And a lot of them are now being violated, like habeas corpus, and that is a very serious thing. We're not done dealing with that one. We're going to move on to the next article. It's also really important. Our title is Detecting Parkinson's Early with an AI Pen. So Parkinson's, you know the Chinese for it. It's just a phonetic translation. It's a serious disease that usually develops later in life, more often among men than women. When you start shaking, you have trouble with walking and movement. A groundbreaking AI-powered pen developed by researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, could revolutionize the early diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. This innovative device detects subtle changes in handwriting, a key indicator of the neurodegenerative disorder.
The pen uses magnetic ink and a specialized tip to convert hand movements into electrical signals. These signals are then analyzed by an AI system which can distinguish Parkinson's-related handwriting patterns from healthy ones with over 95% accuracy. This low-cost, accessible technology holds promise for widespread screening, particularly in areas with limited medical resources. By enabling early detection and intervention, the AI-powered pen could offer new hope to millions at risk around the world.
The key word here is early detection, because once you have Parkinson's, you do not really need a test for it. Their hands will be shaking. You don't need a special pen to see that. When they walk, they shuffle. That means they take small steps trying to move along quickly. They don't walk like most of us usually walk. So once it's fully developed, you can see it. You don't really need a test. This is for finding out early. I have to say, though, that so far we do not have a cure for Parkinson's. We don't know why people get it. It's not completely genetic. It's not necessarily just passed down from parent to child. And it's not contagious. We don't know exactly why it happens. However, if you know about it early, you can maybe start taking preventative steps to try and learn how to live with it. So, detecting Parkinson's early with an AI pen, a groundbreaking AI-powered pen developed by researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, could revolutionize the early diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. So like I said, the important thing is finding out early so you can start dealing with it early, even though so far it cannot be cured.
Let's look at this word diagnosis, and let's underline it too. This is a Greek word, and we should know that DI, like BI, means two, as in bicycle. You have two wheels. Diagnosis means we're cutting something into two pieces. And this GNO is Greek for know, like I know the answer, or I know your name, KNOW. So diagnosis literally means we're cutting away wrong answers so that we can get to the correct answer. Diagnosis means we know it's this illness, not the others.
This innovative device detects subtle changes in handwriting, a key indicator of the neurodegenerative disorder. Now, subtle changes. For pronunciation, there are two things to watch, or maybe three things to watch out for here. One is innovative, especially in British English. You'll hear people say,
Innovative. It is very hard for me to say. I'm happy you say innovative because I can't say the other way correctly.
It's harder to say because we're used to the American pronunciation, innovative. Some Brits say it that way, but it's more popular in Britain to say innovative.
It's so hard for me to say.
It's hard for us. It's me too, innovative. But I say innovative. I prefer it because that's my native dialect. The second one is subtle, has a B in it, but don't pronounce it. Just pretend that B doesn't exist. But it's there. Remember to put it in writing when you're spelling. Subtle, don't pronounce the B. And which reminds me, when you're talking about salmon, don't pronounce the L. It's
salmon.
Not salmon. No. It's salmon. But this is subtle. And the other one is one that I NG'd on a couple times, neurodegenerative. That means that your neurons are kind of falling apart. They're becoming damaged. That's neurodegenerative disorder. A disorder is a disease, but it's a whole collection of symptoms. It's kind of a bigger term than just disease. So this device will tell us early, before we're even kind of thinking about a possibility of Parkinson's, you've got a warning, so that will help you become prepared.
I'm so relieved that we have some positive use of AI in our world instead of just the normal doom and gloom and like, this is going to take our jobs.
No, I don't think so for many reasons. They're going to change the kinds of jobs that we do to a certain extent. Everybody keeps citing, remember with the weavers in England where they started destroying the mechanical looms? They soon found out it did not really hurt their livelihood. They could do other jobs. what happens now is if you use AI well, it's going to save you from a lot of busy work, a lot of tedious work that is not satisfying. If you're a coder, there's a lot of coding that is just repeating the same thing over and over again. You should use AI because otherwise it's really a waste of your time and effort. There's a lot of jobs we're finding will not be affected by AI, and one of them is care workers. Anybody who is like a nurse or working with taking care of older people or sick people, we need those. Garbage collectors, all kinds of maintenance people, we need those. And in addition, we're finding out what's really important to us as humans is connection, and AI does not give us that kind of connection.
Let's go to our next paragraph. The pen uses magnetic ink and a specialized tip to convert hand movements into electrical signals.
So when you're writing with it, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in that pen. It's giving a whole record of your writing pattern. And if they see certain squiggles, they will know you are in danger of having Parkinson's.
These signals are then analyzed by an AI system which can distinguish Parkinson's-related handwriting patterns from healthy ones with over 95% accuracy.
And I find this really believable and convincing because very early on, you're going to start having some signs of not being so steady with your hands and your legs.
This must take a doctor a really long time, pre-AI, to recognize the patterns of people beginning to display signs of Parkinson's. What are those little telltale signs? And it must take a long time.
And there are so many diseases that we can get as we age. This is only one of them. If you're not paying special attention to these particular symptoms, you might miss it.
This low-cost, accessible technology holds promise for widespread screening, particularly in areas with limited medical resources.
And this is really encouraging because so many modern devices are very, very expensive and complicated. And when you bring them to other countries, they often have a lower income level. For example, there are special beds that are used for premature babies, but they were too expensive for a lot of countries in India and Africa. They found out that a box worked just fine. So if this is simple enough and not so expensive, that's great.
Here we go. Next sentence. By enabling early detection and intervention, the AI-powered pen could offer new hope to millions at risk around the world.
And this one hit me really hard because of this family member. It's a very, very close family member. If he had found out earlier, maybe he could have prepared better. There is hope for a lot of people that you can do just that.
That's right. The early detection seems to be so key in so many of these issues. At the age of 43, I need to be better about this. I rarely go to the doctor, and that spells trouble. Guys, don't die of stubbornness.
That's one thing, but I have to say one other thing about you, Chris, is you pay really close attention to your health. For example, diet and exercise. And we've mentioned this in many other programs, but these are very, very important. You think, well, I feel fine, and I'm pretty strong, I can lift this weight and stuff. Your muscles are going to get weaker with every year unless you are really exercising and if you are paying attention to your diet, if you aren't paying attention.
Yeah. Go to the doctor. Go to the doctor. I shouldn't be the one to say this because I have terrible habits about going to the doctor regularly, but I recognize the importance of early detection.
But you have good life habits, and those are what is really important in my opinion. That's it for today. Tune in next time. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.